long ago, Lawrence Sher, who is the amazing cinematographer behind the film The Joker, posted a stream of shot replications for films, all done in his home and super DIY. And since then, we've wanted to try that out for ourselves for several reasons. Mainly, it's fun, but also you are reverse engineering an amazing shot. Of course, it's disconnected from the story, and the story is what really makes any shot great, but we're still doing it very DIY and learning a lot from it. So this allows us to play around with ideas that are what make a visual medium kind of like magic. These little tricks that will get you to an end result that are shockingly simplistic. And speaking of Lawrence Sher, we got these frames off of his site ShotDeck. I've talked about ShotDeck on the show before. They don't sponsor us, and I do pay for my subscription. It's just an incredible site. It's filled with high quality film stills that are curated in a really smart way so you can find what it is that you're looking for very easily. And it's been an absolute godsend for pitching. So if you are someone who creates pitch decks or a director who puts together mood boards, this is a must-have. You can also just scroll through here for inspiration as well. But the two frames that we decided to replicate is this shot here from Inglourious Basterds and this one from inside of a mailbox from Michael Mann's The Insider. Justin and Josh decided to jump into the Inglourious Basterds shot first, which you have the original shot here and then our recreation, which when you jump out to see how they actually did it is entirely ridiculous and, well, fun. So let's break this down. Sticking with the mostly DIY mindset, they headed over to Walmart to grab a white poster board, 5 large black pieces of paper, and red lipstick. Now back in the office, they decided to set up in the back room since the walls are red, and that does a good amount of lifting for us. And in here, they decided to light first. To match the key shape on her face, they used a Nanlite Forza 60 with the spotlight adapter. This got us close, but it wasn't giving us quite as hard of edges as the original, but it did give us this eye light as well. Then they used a can light for her top light, which is giving us that second eye light that you see in the original as well. For the background light, we used 2 of our Nanlite Pavo tubes on either side just to bring up the back levels there. Then our Parcan, which is a cheap light you can get off eBay. This one is giving us our backlight. Then we have 2 Aperture Mini 20s for more of a spotlight on the background. And finally, we have a bounce to bring up the bottom part of her neck and chin. Nothing super complicated, but it's getting us to where we want to be. And next up is to get the background matching our reference. First thing the guys did was to use a white poster board as the base. Then they could cut shapes of the black paper needed and just tape them directly onto the wall using black paper tape. Though what they found was getting those shapes right was far more tedious than they anticipated. Next, they tossed a wig onto our stand-in, which this wig admittedly looks horrible. We realized this, but we wanted that blonde color, so there it is. And for the final touch, we added a nice pop of red lipstick to our actor, and we were ready for post. In post, we tossed in our Inglourious Bastard LUT from our Cinematic LUTs V1 pack, and that gets us a good way there. If we don't want to use a LUT, another trick that we could pull off here is in Premiere. If we bring in our shot and the reference frame into our timeline, first I'll correct our image with a basic conversion since this is log. Then inside of our Lumetri panel, we can come down to color wheels and match, then click comparison view. Now I can scrub here to find our reference, and then we're just going to click match. Now Premiere will look at the color in the reference image and do its best to match in our footage. And it does an okay job. We still need to tweak quite a bit to get closer, but that's the case in our LUT as well. And you could do this for all kinds of frames, bring in tons of different references to push that sort of look into your shot. So you can use it for anything, not just replicas, almost building out your own LUT in a small way. But after that, we are just doing a few extra things to get it the rest of the way there, including some grain, a power window to push that highlighted area on her face more, and a bit of blur to clean up that harsh digital sharpness. Now, one thing we can't fully match is the lens. Both of these films were shot with anamorphic lenses, and we are shooting with spherical, which gives us several differences we can't fully replicate, like how the lenses handle bokeh. Of course, with the anamorphic lens, you're also getting this wider aspect ratio, which we can match by tossing on bars, which gets us a lot closer to the overall feel, but but because of how we shot it, we are losing that one little line up there in the symbol, which I can cheat and bring back in with a little masking. And the same goes for our next shot as well, which is the shot from The Insider. And if you haven't seen it, it's a great film, so add that to your list. But the first thing the guys did was to head back to Walmart for a $16 mailbox, which we had no idea mailboxes were even that cheap. And when they got back, they found out that the back of this thing was much more difficult to rip off than they anticipated. For the bullet, they went comically DIY. We have this empty shell lying around in our prop room and decided to add the actual bullet back on using Play-Doh, because why not? So they shaped that into a bullet to match the shell and painted it with a metallic gray, and it's not that bad. With a little more time and effort, I think this could actually be passable. Now, the original shot is outside and it looks to be overcast or flagged off completely. Then we have some green trees in the background, and of course, we're looking through a mailbox, which we've already ripped the back off of. The problem for us, though, is the day that we shot, there wasn't a cloud in the sky and all the trees around us are dead and brown. So the first thing we had to do was to hunt down a bit of green to place in the shot. Then, since we only have a small piece here, we used a camo fernie that we had lying around to make it feel more filled out and thick. And since we needed the full area in the shade and would only see a narrow piece outside the mailbox, we decided to shoot this in our alley and let the buildings do the work of blocking the sun for us. But we did add one flag on our mailbox as well for a bit more shade there. Next, we tossed some mail into the mailbox and put a bullet on top of that. And the bullet kept falling over since there's nothing inside the shell, so it's very light and kept tipping. So we had to tape it down to keep it in place. But after that, Justin tossed on a white button-down shirt and we have our shot. Once again, in post, we're going to try the same color match function in Premiere, but this time around, it's not giving us great results. So instead, we did it manually, trying a few LUTs, but in the end, just sort of eyeballed it to get it as close as we possibly could to the final grade of the original film. And once again, if we look at the original shot, then our recreation, we are of course shifting the aspect ratio, but the general feel of the shot comes across well. And we can again take it the rest of the way with a little After Effects love and bars, and we have something pretty close. And when we jump back to look at how it was done, it's hilariously DIY. Again, that's one of the most fun and exciting things about filmmaking, those little cheats that are magic tricks for the audience. No one would ever know that this is how we pulled these off without us showing it. And that's something that makes these recreations entirely worth doing on your own at home. Take one frame and reverse engineer that thing to land on something that feels like the original. You'll be surprised how many ideas it gives you and how many light switches it turns on in your head. But that's it for today. If you aren't subscribed, consider doing that. Hit the bell button to be notified when we put up more content. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.